In 1910, Mexico was a tinderbox of injustice, with haciendas dominating expropriated village lands. Porfirio Díaz, the iron-fisted ruler for over 3 decades, oversaw deep inequality. Wealthy landowners and foreign investors thrive, while the campesinos remain disenfranchised and destitute. The stage is set for a long and bloody struggle that will shake Mexico to its core. In 1908, President Diaz suggested Mexico might democratize, inspiring liberals. Francisco I. Madero, a wealthy reformist, challenged Diaz in the 1910 election. Diaz responded by imprisoning Madero and securing a fraudulent re-election. Madero escaped to San Antonio, where he wrote the Plan de San Luis Potosí, calling for a revolt starting on November 20, 1910. Rebels rose across the country, with Pancho Villa and Pascual Orozco leading in the north, and Emiliano Zapata rallying peasants in the south. By spring 1911, the revolution gained momentum, culminating in the capture of Ciudad Juárez, which forced Diaz to resign in May 1911. Mexico celebrated as Madero was elected president, marking the beginning of change after 34 years of Diaz's porfiriato. The end of Diaz's rule marked the start of turmoil in the revolution. While Madero promoted democracy and political reform, he failed to address the deep social demands behind the uprising, keeping the existing army and bureaucracy and hesitating on land reform, which disillusioned many peasants. Zapata felt betrayed by Madero's unfulfilled promises to return stolen lands and issued the Plan of Ayala in late 1911, declaring Madero unfit to lead and vowing to fight for land and liberty. This became the slogan of the Southern Peasant Rebellion. In the north, Pancho Villa, known as the Centaur of the North, gained fame as a guerrilla leader. Once a bandit, he emerged as a commander under Madero, forming a disciplined force that won key battles against Diaz's troops and became a folk hero to the poor, likened to a Mexican Robin Hood. Pancho Villa, adorned with bandoliers, became the emblem of the Northern Revolution, fearless and devoted to toppling the old regime. Though he spoke of justice and supported land reform like Zapata, Villa often prioritized military victory and vengeance over redistribution of land. He led by example, sharing hardship and danger with his men, while his legendary cavalry electrified the north with bold raids. In the south, Emiliano Zapata emerged as the steadfast champion of the campesinos. With a thick mustache and piercing eyes, he was an iconic figure in his charro outfit, sombrero low and rifle in hand. Unlike Villa's flamboyant style, Zapata was earnest and austere, fighting for his people's ancestral lands under the banner of land and liberty. His liberation army of the South grew from humble farmers who defended their fields while organizing local councils to distribute land and create rural banks. His simple ideals and incorruptible reputation earned him a messiah-like status, as he embodied the belief that no Mexican should be a tenant on their own soil, earning him the title of the great leader of the South. While Villa and Zapata pushed for change, President Madero struggled to maintain stability amid rising conservative opposition. In February 1913, a coup attempt led to intense fighting in Mexico City during La Decena Trágica, where federal troops and rebels clashed. Madero was betrayed by General Victoriano Huerta, who conspired with rebel leaders and U.S. Ambassador Henry Lane Wilson to seize power. On February 18th, Huerta's forces arrested Madero, who was later murdered in custody. The democratic dream turned into a nightmare as Huerta proclaimed himself president-dictator of Mexico. The reaction to Huerta's regime was swift and fierce. His betrayal galvanized the revolutionaries, uniting them against a common enemy. Zapata rejected Huerta's offers of alliance, while Villa, enraged by Madero's fate, nearly executed Huerta's envoy. Venustiano Carranza, a wealthy landowner from Coahuila, declared Huerta's government illegitimate, leading to the formation of 2 major revolutionary coalitions: Carranza's Constitutionalists and the independent forces of Villa and Zapata. Despite differing agendas, they became reluctant allies against Huerta. Even President Woodrow Wilson opposed Huerta, sending Marines to Veracruz in April 1914 to intercept a German arms shipment. With pressure from all sides, Huerta's regime collapsed. With Huerta gone, revolutionary leaders had to decide Mexico's future. Carranza, head of the victorious Constitutionalists, convened a convention in October 1914, but Pancho Villa refused to attend, distrusting Carranza and viewing Mexico City as hostile. Instead, the Aguascalientes Convention was held on neutral ground, where delegates from major rebel factions gathered. The Villistas and Zapatistas dominated this assembly, despite being unlikely unlikely allies. They appointed a provisional president, rejecting Carranza's authority. In response, Carranza fled to Veracruz with his loyal troops, vowing to resist. In late November 1914, Emiliano Zapata's peasant army entered Mexico City, followed by Pancho Villa's division of the North. Thousands of disciplined campesinos marched through the streets, politely asking for food instead of looting. On December 6th, Villa and Zapata met in the National Palace, capturing a moment of camaraderie. Villa offered Zapata the empty presidential seat, but Zapata declined, quipping, "When a good man sits there, when he gets up, he's already bad." Although their alliance was more symbolic than strategic, they momentarily held the nation's heart. The camaraderie in Mexico's capital faded by early 1915, leading to a new civil war characterized by revolutionary versus revolutionary factions. The country was divided into two camps, Villa and Zapata in the north and south, and Carranza with his General Obregón in the west and coastal regions. Carranza, backed by the urban middle class and U.S. support, aimed to restore central authority and implement moderate reforms. Villa's northern division, known for cavalry charges, faced off against Obregón's modern army with trenches and machine guns. The decisive Battle of Celaya in April 1915 saw Villa's forces decimated by Obregón's tactics, leading to a significant decline in Villa's military power. By summer 1915, many of his men had deserted, and Carranza's legitimacy grew, especially after the U.S. formally recognized his government. Feeling betrayed, Villa raided Columbus, New Mexico, in March 1916, hoping to provoke conflict between Carranza and the U.S. In response, President Wilson sent a punitive expedition led by General Pershing to capture Villa. For nearly a year, Villa eluded capture in the Sierra Madre Mountains, embarrassing the U.S. Army but failing to alter the war's trajectory. Zapata continued his fight in the south but became isolated after Villa's forces were neutralized. Carranza, now in Mexico City, convened a constitutional convention in 1917, excluding Zapata and radical delegates. The Mexican Constitution of 1917 promised land reform, labor rights, and restrictions on foreign ownership. By 1918, the conflict became a war of attrition. Carranza's generals struggled to defeat Zapata in his mountainous terrain, while Zapata could not expand beyond his stronghold. Years of fighting left towns in ruins and an entire generation scarred by violence. Carranza became frustrated with Zapata, seeing him as a constant problem. In early 1919, Carranza's government set a trap using Colonel Jesus Guajardo, who pretended to rebel and offered to join Zapata with men and weapons. After staging acts of loyalty, Guajardo invited Zapata to a hacienda in Chinameca, Morelos. On April 10, 1919, as Zapata arrived with a few men, he was ambushed and killed by hidden soldiers. The assassination shocked Mexico. Carranza believed this would end the Zapatista movement, but it instead solidified Zapata's legacy. By 1920, the Mexican Revolution was nearing its end, but not without final turmoil. Venustiano Carranza, having defeated his enemies, became isolated and autocratic. His attempt to sideline popular war hero Álvaro Obregón led to a revolt, forcing Carranza to flee Mexico City. He was ultimately killed in the Puebla Mountains by former supporters. In May 1920, Obregón took the presidency, marking the end of the revolution's armed phase. He sought peace by negotiating with various factions and began implementing parts of the 1917 Constitution. Meanwhile, Pancho Villa, exhausted from years of fighting, agreed to an amnesty for a quiet retirement on a ranch in Durango. By the end of 1920, the fighting stopped, leaving Mexico to face the challenges of rebuilding. The Mexican Revolution was a tumultuous period that transformed Mexican society. Under a dictator and land-owning oligarchs, Mexico was reborn as a constitutional republic with social rights in its constitution. The revolution ignited pride among the common people, as it was ultimately a peasant rebellion that shaped the nation's future. Pancho Villa and Emiliano Zapata emerged as legendary folk heroes, with corridos celebrating their bravery and struggles. The revolution established the principle that those who work the land should have a voice in its management, and that leaders must be accountable to the people. Thus, the Mexican Revolution was a dramatic chapter of liberation, driven by ordinary men and women reclaiming their destiny.